So I've had a couple of questions so far on the video that I've already posted about my Mora knife modifications. So I wanted to answer a couple of those questions. The first of them was actually a recommendation, which I appreciate. Thank you guys. A couple of folks on Hammock forums, as well as some folks on YouTube. I actually had a paramedic get a hold of me and mention, do not make the dog tag any more difficult to find than it needs to be. Originally I had it actually buried under all of the cordage on the sheath, and the paramedic said make it, easily visible. So I've relocated it back to the location above, sort of under the belt loop here, and I just have it held in place with a Ranger band. I had it here originally when I used this in actually on my belt, and it does have a bit of an issue where it sort of interferes with the belt clips slightly. So that's actually why I relocated it under the the cordage wrap. But I'm not exactly sure how much this is going to interfere. So at any rate, I've relocated this. Thank you guys, all those of you that made that recommendation to make this dog tag very visible for, God forbid if something happens. So thank you guys for the suggestion. Once again, just for this cord wrapping, I've removed the obviously removed the necklace portion and the captive cord lock piece, just to make it easier to wrap this. But obviously I'm going to keep those pieces. So I had another question about Ranger bands, and Ranger bands are a small piece of bicycle inner tube. So here's what a bicycle inner tube looks like. You just slice off little pieces of it, and what you do is it just kind of slides up onto your sheath and stays there because it's rubberized. So that's what a Ranger band is. If you actually light this up, it's rubber. So if you actually get this going with a spark or with a lighter or something, it burns for quite some time because it's rubber. So that's another use for it. But obviously one of the many uses is it holds things in place. It holds the dog tag in place, and the last thing it does is it holds the cordage in place. So that was another question that I've received, is how do I hold the cordage in place on the sheath itself, and what is the knotting that I use. So the way that the cordage is held in place is partly due to the Ranger bands, providing some friction on the smooth sheath here. But the other way that this is held is the actual knotting itself. So this thing, it has, that's the name of this cordage here, it has fixed eyes on both ends. So I've got a fixed eye on both of the ends of this cordage. So the first piece, I start off on the front side of the knife. I try to make this slightly decorative also. So the first thing you do is, and there's Ranger bands once again most of the way up this knife. So there's a Ranger band here, there's a Ranger band here, and a Ranger band here. Once again, this provides some of the friction for the knotwork to actually stay on the sheath itself. So that hopefully that answers the question about how how the cordage stays on there. So the first knot that I do is I wrap around and I make a girth hitch, or some folks may know it as a lark's head. I make a girth hitch, and I put this right under the sort of the nub, the first nub on the sheath. And once again, the knotting on here is slightly decorative, so I try to get everything sort of lined up in the center. So I make that kind of in the center there. And then so that's basically the beginning. And then the entire knotwork is you just take a loop of cord, you loop it back on itself, and then you put it over the tip. And that makes the entire knotwork for the entire sheath here. Once again, you just take a loop, fold it back on itself, and up and over the sheath. And then you sort of pull back upon itself. Make a loop over the sheath. and then pull it back on itself. Now this is, I believe, 50 feet of zinget, and it was enough for me to do this wrapping on the front. You know, it goes all the way down the front, it goes all the way then up the back, and then halfway down the front again, and I finish it off with a clove hitch on itself, and just sort of tuck the excess on under, you know, what's the cordage that's already tied there.